This is going to be the video where I explain my blueprint on how I became profitable with my strategy. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about IFVGs, which is inverse fair value gaps, which is the main core of my strategy. It's what helped me from being unprofitable, not knowing what I was doing, not even having a solid strategy, to then finding this and making it work for me in a way where it's simple to spot out, and it'd be stupid not to use this strategy. So that's what I'm going to be going over in this video. This might be a long video, so just make sure to take notes, because there's most of the stuff I'm going to be talking about in this video is going to be very important. All right, to get started, what is an IFVG? Well, an IFVG is an inverse fair value gap. Now, I already made a video on fair value gaps. If you haven't seen that, you should definitely see that before watching this one. You should actually see just all the videos I made prior to this one, because you might not understand fully the strategy if you haven't. Anyways, the main key concept I trade is inverse fair value gaps. Now, why do I trade these? Well, because in my opinion, out of all the screen time I have, out of all the hours I have trading, this has been the best indicator and the best confirmation to me to tell me whether in what direction market's going to go, right? Whether it's going to go down or up. Now, I'll first go over by showing you guys examples of just IFVGs, and then I'll introduce concepts such as like liquidity sweeps that play a really big role in this IFVG working. So first, I'm going to draw it out for you guys. So an IFVG is basically when you see a fair value gap form, right? This could be to the downside or to the upside. Let me draw the wicks. So let's say these are candles. Doesn't matter what color they are, doesn't matter if they're green, red, doesn't matter. All that matters is that the candles on the outside left enough space for the body, right? For there to be a gap in the body of the middle candle. Boom. All an inverse fair value gap is basically a close under this gap. By close, I don't mean this. I don't mean when a candle is there and then the wicks like this. This isn't a close. You are looking for the close of the entire body. And you can, like, that can only happen once whatever time frame you're on closes, right? Whatever candle and whatever time frame you're on closes. So if I'm in the 5 minute, for example, right? This is a 5 minute candle. Let's say this is a 5 minute candle. And it's just moving, and I see the body goes below it, right? Why would I not enter? Because the 5 minutes haven't passed, right? Let's say it's like there's a new 5 minute candle every 5 minutes, right? So let's say it's 9:34. There's a minute left for this candle to close. And at 9:34, I see that the candle goes and looks like it's going to close below it, right? Why would I not enter here? Well, because at 9:34 and 50 seconds, this could do this. Boom. And you just entered into an invalid position. This isn't valid anymore. You need to wait for the candle to close below that gap for you to enter, right here at the close, below the gap. That's the only way this is going to work. You can't enter early. You can't have FOMO. You have to wait for the candles. Now, the candle could close like this. There could be multiple candles on the way down. It doesn't have to be one candle. And I'll show you guys in the chart. But it could also look something like this, where the next 5-minute candle could be like that, right? It dipped into the fair value gap, but it didn't close below it. It didn't inverse it. But let's say the next candle does. This is still a valid IFVG play, because all you're looking for is a candle close below. Now, there are certain things that that are very important when it comes to this, such as the shape of it, the momentum, and if any sweeps had happened, right? So now, since it's going to get a little more technical, I'll show you guys in the chart. I'll show you guys an example of this morning, actually, where a really nice fair value gap happened. So this was on the 2-minute, I'm pretty sure. Or maybe on the 1-minute. Yeah. Honestly, this one's really good too. All right. I'll talk about this one and I'll talk about this one. So, what do you notice about this setup? Right here. Well, as you can see, it made a low here, right? And this, by the way, this was at 8:30. News had come out. This is a data wick. It had created a low here. And what does it do? It sweeps the low, right? Now, what am I waiting for? For my confirmation to play out, right? For my bias to happen. Where was I? I hate that it resets me. All right, there it was. As you can see, it sweeps this low to the left, and it creates a fair value gap, which then breaks it. Look, right here. It barely broke it, but it still broke it. This is still a valid entry. And what do you notice happened after this? It went up and it targeted, it was a retracement back to this higher time frame fair value gap and this internal high. So if you would have taken this play, it would have looked something like this. Hello. It would have looked something like this, where you wait for that candle to close and you enter long here. Stops, you have them either below here or just, yeah, have them here. And then you'd be targeting that high. So this would be a 1-to-1 play. A nice 1-to-1 risk reward. Targeting this high, stop loss in that low, right at the bottom of this candle. Now, this, I would say, is a normal probability IFVG. Like, I would still take this, but I would take this with moderate sizing. Now, why? Why would I not take this with full size? Because if you notice, if you go on the higher time frames, you can see that to the left of this, we have even major liquidity, right? We have these London lows here, and you can tell they're London lows by just putting this indicator in your chart. London low, right? Created that low right there. And session lows are major points of liquidity. So it created that London low, And if you even go more to the left, right, this is why before you take a trade, you want to be conscious of what you're looking at. You want to know all the context. You want to know is there equal highs below, is there equal highs above, like where is the major liquidity points. If I go to the left of this, you can see there was major equal lows right here, right? Relative equal lows. They're not exactly perfect, but they're close enough and they're very obvious. So in this trade, what I would have loved to see is something like this, where it comes down, it sweeps both of these lows, and then it creates the inverse fair value gap here. Now, if this would have happened, I would have definitely taken this trade with a lot more risk, right? I would have risked a lot more because now at this point, why would a market want to keep going lower if in an impulse move like that, it took out these 2 points of liquidity? It makes no sense. Now it'd be looking to target major points of liquidity up here. And funny enough, we have equal highs right here. I'm going to mark out. So if this would have happened, I definitely would have sized much heavier. But I still took the trade, even though I know the probability was lower. And that is why I de-risked, right? I went moderate sizing. I didn't go heavy sizing. And I didn't go small sizing either because I like the shape of this, right? Whenever you're looking for an inverse fair value gap, you want it to look something like this. You want it to be a V-shaped recovery, right? You don't want it to be something like this where it goes down and then goes like this, and then goes up. This is less ideal, right? This could still work, don't get me wrong, but this is just less probability when it just stalls here, trades sideways, and then does it, right? Because let's say in both scenarios, you have fair value gap here, and this ends up closing above it in both scenarios. The reason you would want to take this one over this one is because this is more of like an impulse move, right? This is more of a recovery. Like if you see this happen and you see it take liquidity, then this inversing this fair value gap is confirmation that market is now extremely bullish and wants to go up as fast as it can, right? And when I was talking about before momentum is basically the speed and size of the candles. So I'll give you guys two examples and I'll show you guys one that's lower probability and higher probability. So a lower probability IFVG will look something like this, where we go up, let's say there's liquidity here, right? We go up, blah, blah, sweep the liquidity, but then instead of coming down right away, we kind of stall for a little bit, do this, come up again, do this, and then after a while of stalling and just small candles down, we break it, but with not that much momentum, right? With not that much speed, right? Let's say the candles look something like this. They're like just small candles, one after the other, very slow price movement. This isn't that ideal. Like this could still work, but just know this is lower probability. Something like this. Let's say the candles are just all stuck together and small and just very slow. Now, what would be something that would be very high probability? Well, something that would look like this, where you do have your liquidity here, right? Let's say this is your point of liquidity, and it comes up, it takes it, forms a fair value gap here, right? These both have fair value gaps. All right, let's say this one made one here, and then this one made one here. And instead of stalling like this, you literally see big ass candles on the way down. So as soon as you see this liquidity, instead of seeing that like choppy, slow price action down, you see this just boom, boom. Two big candles that completely disrespect this IFVG, right? Because as I said before, and in this point, if market kept wanting to go higher, right? If market was still bullish after sweeping this liquidity, would it do this? No. It would use this fair value gap as a retracement to fill more orders to then be able to go higher to wherever the fuck it wants. But the moment you see this happen, the moment you see a fair value gap, which is supposed to be a point where market would go down, would retrace down into to fill orders to go higher. Once you see that point of retracement getting fucking smacked, that means bias has changed. That means market doesn't give a fuck about going higher and it wants to go low. That's all that means. So this is going to be a much higher probability trade because it's more of a sudden movement, right? The momentum's better. The candles are faster. And I'll show you guys. Like, say this is like two candles. Like, it doesn't even need to take one. Let's say it's like two nice candles that disrespect this. This play would be much higher probability than this one. Because this one, this is like market slow. Like in this play, like it could break here, but then it could just decide to like go up again a little bit, like dance, go back down. When you see something like this, odds are it's not gonna like dance around and be slow. Odds are it's just gonna go straight to the next point of liquidity and hit your take profit. All right, now I'm going to show you guys examples of basically what I just drew out, but in the charts. Be pretty easy to spot. All right, this is one with good momentum. As you can see, this one was actually very good. This one had swept this major point of liquidity. Why is this a major point of liquidity? It's 8:30. News came out. News candles, their wicks, their highs and lows are major points of liquidity, are points where people put orders and where market would be drawn into. So, as you can see, in this move, it created a high right here, right? But it had still not swept any major liquidity. But then after that, here, it comes back up, sweeps this high, right? That's already liquidity, and sweeps the major point of liquidity. So now you would be looking for an entry. And as you can see, it creates a fair value gap and it gives you an entry right here. Now on the 30-second, this definitely looked better, but second time frames like below the 1 minute, that gets more technical and complicated. That's not something you need to learn right now. So for now, just stick 1 minute and above. Anyways, a fair value gap does get formed. And what do you notice about these candles? They're big ass candles, right? Like after this creates that, sells for a little bit, but the candle that disrespected this fair value gap is massive. Like it's a monster candle. So you would really want to take this because odds are that bias has changed and now it wants to target lower liquidity. And that's exactly what this play does. Let's say you were to enter here, you had your stop above this high because why the fuck would market want to keep going higher? Makes no point. That's why you would have your stop there. Because if your bias is wrong, then you're saving yourself a lot more. Like you're de-risking. basically. But after this happens, what does market do? It goes down and ends up targeting and sweeping the previous points of liquidity that I called out, which is London lows and equal lows, relative equal lows. That's exactly what it does. As you can see, after it swept that, market was like, all right, you know what? I want to sweep liquidity to the downside. That's what it did. Boom, swept this and swept this. So hopefully you guys have an idea of what a good IFVG looks like. Now I'm going to try to look for a pretty like shit IFVG. So you guys have an understanding of both. All right, I found a good example. Now something like this would be a pretty shitty fair value gap. Now, as you can see, this still worked, but this was just low probability. Like you don't want to be looking for setups like this. You want to be waiting for your setup where it's a nice V-shaped recovery with good momentum. Like here, this gap gets formed, and instead of just like wrecking it like right away, you see all these wicks and just like this price movement sideways. That's not something you want to see. That just makes it lower probability. Like, don't get me wrong, it could still work. Clearly, it worked here, but they're just low probability setups. So if let's say I were to take this, I would take it with very low risk because I just don't like the way it looks. As you can see, it created this, and it just went sideways, 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 and it wicked below it a bunch of times, but it just wouldn't break, wouldn't break. It'd be inside this range, right? It'd be inside this fair value gap, and then above, as you can see, we had another fair value gap that it was stuck on, right here. Right, so it wasn't breaking this, it wasn't breaking this, it was just stuck in the middle. That's not something you really want to see. And then it did finally break and it went down, but it's like this I would call like a bad setup. Something like this, right? Where price just does this. Goes up, and instead of doing this, right, as we said, or even doing something like this, it does something like this, where it goes up, it stalls, 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 and it breaks it with very little momentum. And you're gonna see this a lot, right? Especially when price action is not great. You are gonna see this, where it is gonna be a break in the fair value gap, but would you really want to take this trade with a lot of risk, or even just take it in general, when price is moving this shit? Like, no, like you don't, right? When it closes this shit, you want to be taking something that's clean and fast and with good momentum, right? You want to be taking setups that just look like visually appealing. This does not look visually appealing. This is just candles with wicks going everywhere, trading sideways. Like for me, just looking at that, it's fucking makes me uncomfortable just seeing that. But if it's something like this where it goes up and then it might stall for a little bit, but it goes back down, right, with good momentum, this is something you want to take. This is high probability right here in comparison to this. Do you guys get the difference? Hopefully you do, because this is very important. Like, this is so much more higher probability than this. They could both have the same context, right? They could have both swept the same shit, both have good targets down below. But this is just going to be so much better because this is just a faster move. This is the market telling you like what it wants to do. This is the market being unsure. And you don't want to be trading when there's uncertainty in the market, right? You want to be trading when there's good price action, when there's clean price action, when it's not trading sideways. Like, you don't want to be trading something that looks like this. Like, market opens and it just does this the whole fucking day. You do not want to trade this. You want to trade something that looks like this, where good points of liquidity gets established, and then it's like long moves up, down, right, comes down, sweeps this liquidity, changes structure, now it's targeting liquidity to the upside, boom. This is clean price action right here. This is what you want to be seeing when you trade, right? This is where you want to be looking for your setups and your strategy, not this. You do not want to be trading in this. You do not want to see this, right? Because when price trades like this just means price is unsure. It doesn't know what it wants to do. And it makes all of your setups much lower probability, right? All right, hopefully you guys understand how I execute trades and like how my strategy works. I'm going to be making a video on break-even points. Break-even points is another thing I use in my strategy that it's what has helped me a lot to just minimize my losses, right? Break-even points are very, very important, and I am going to dedicate an entire video to it because it's something that it is a little bit complex, technical. Um, so I am gonna have to be explaining it a lot and showing you guys different examples, but it's something you need to understand to minimize your losses. Like break-even points has saved me so many times, right? So many times that I get the bias wrong and just the break-even points save me. They save me from big losses. So that's what I'm gonna be talking about in the next video. And then after that, I think I'm gonna start making psychology videos. So teaching you guys like the best way to journal, um, like what you guys should be doing after every trade, how you should be taking your trades, like just going over psychology in general. That's what I'm gonna be doing after I finish just everything I need to talk about my strategy. But yeah, that video is gonna be coming out probably tomorrow. And yeah, but hopefully you guys enjoyed my blueprint strategy to becoming profitable. This is the only thing I use to trade. It's that simple. And yeah, that's about it.